Hi there. Welcome back to the family of God to know more about your very own family. Lack of communication is one of the three major reasons for divorce: sex, finance, and communication. Today, we are going to deal with communication and marital irritations. And this has been one of the major causes of communication breakdown leading to divorce. What is communication? Communication is talking to one another, talking to God. And communication improves relationship. And relationship improves trust. And trust is the cornerstone for effective communication and successful marriage. If love is not communicated on a daily basis, then it's going to be a difficult situation in the marriage. Now, there is a lot of communication breakdown, one because of cultural problem. Maybe if two parties come from different culture, different background, there is always a communication breakdown. And if there is a cultural differences, they find it difficult to express themselves. And sometimes expression and communication is heard in a different manner. So let us explore ways to bridge the gap in communication breakdown. And Pastor Victoria, would you like to say about communication?
A marriage with no problems certainly means there has been no communication at all. So beloved, if you are watching this program and you are saying that there are a lot of conflicts in your marriage, then be happy, rejoice along with us, because your marriage is certainly a wonderful marriage. There are conflicts because you are communicating. There are conflicts because you are expressing your views. You are telling out your opinions. You are not keeping all to yourself. You are telling it out. And certainly when you tell out opinions or express your views, there is certainly going to be a conflict of thoughts and a conflict of agreement. Marriages are enriched by constant communication. I remember when my husband and I, when we were able to resolve all our marital irritations and our marital conflicts, we realized that we had a lot to talk to each other, and we would be talking till the wee hours of the morning. And this seems to be a little bit surprising to my mom, who was then staying with us, because she said she never communicated with my father that much as we did communicate. And we found that as we continued to communicate with each other, we were able to get to know each other better. We used to spend a lot of time with each other because we gave priority to our family first. It has always been God, the family, and the ministry in our lives. And we feel it is healthy, we feel it is wonderful, and the results have been wonderful. So conflicts are healthy because there are an expression of views. Husbands and wives are talking out their opinions. This can bring about a fine decision to current problems. I would like to share with you that same testimony that Pastor Vincent shared with you regarding this couple, where we were conducting a marriage seminar. And as she was in this seminar for the whole day, we were not aware of the fact that she had come there contemplating divorce, and in fact already informed the advocate regarding her plans. And they must have had 40 years of marriage, and they were seated there with their grandchild. And when we asked them, because they were sitting on the front seat, and when we asked them, how many years have you been married? They said 40 over years. And we thought that here is such a happy couple with a grandchild. But after the whole seminar, that is, it was a full day seminar. And when the pastor asked for testimonies, this lady came out, which surprised me because she looked like a total village lady, and I thought she was not the kind of person who would like to come out and address a congregation. And she told us that, she told the whole congregation, as I entered this sanctuary of God, I was already very much assured of the plan that I'm making, that I'm going to divorce my husband. And that was truly a shock to the husband as well as to the pastor of the church, who was not aware of what their plans were. And she said, but then when I sat for the whole day and I listened, I realized that I have not been expressing my views. I have not been coming forward to communicate with my husband. I have not been telling my husband how unhappy he has made me many times. I have not been telling my husband that my in-laws have always interfered into our family decisions. I have not told him many things. So I decided that I want to give another chance to my marriage. And I just want to give glory to God, because she realized that a lack of communication has led her to this decision. Now we are going to talk to you about why communication is vital to a marriage. Why must husbands and wives communicate with each other? Are you ready to receive this? Now I would suggest that you bring a book and a pen along with you. Sit down there before your TV and just take these down so that it will help you in times of marital conflicts. Now, when you communicate with each other, as I told you, the number of hours we used to communicate with each other, my husband and I, we will tend to have an increased understanding of one another. We will tend to know what our spouse likes. See, there was an article in the newspaper back in our country where this couple was celebrating their silver jubilee, 50 over years of marital relationship, and a comment that was made by the husband, which says, I am still learning about my wife. 50 years living together, and he says that he is still learning about his wife. So communication certainly increases understanding of one another. Another reason for communication is you are able, if you communicate often, to secure an agreement. A decision made will not be one-sided. If you are in constant communication with each other, you will be able to make a decision after discussing that matter. So the decision will not be one-sided. A decision will not be one-sided, as I said, but it will be born after a discussion between the husband and wife. Then we say it is vital because we find that when communication is present in a family between the husband and wife, not only husband and wife, also children and parents, we find that every decision that the head of the family, which is the husband, makes will be favorable to the family. The children will be happy. For an example, if we are planning a holiday, my husband would make sure that he discusses it not only with me but also with the children. And if there are 2-3 ideas of where to go for a holiday, then we would do it in sequence. Probably this time we will follow the decision of one person, and the next holiday we will follow the other person's decision. So you find that decisions made are very favorable to the family. This gives happiness and joy to every member of the family, and it provides a conducive environment for husbands, wives and children to come home to. And you find that constant communication brings about increased harmony and unity, because they are able to understand one another's feelings, they are able to understand what offends the other party, what offends their children, what kind of topics, what kind of discussions offend their children. So unity and harmony comes along because of greater understanding. Then another reason we would say communication is vital is it stops the interference of a third party. We have been talking about leaving and cleaving from the very time we started this series of teachings. And we find that 80% of the problems between husbands and wives lie just because they are not able to abide by the commandment of God that a husband, therefore a man, has to leave his father and mother and cleave with his wife and become one. This is not happening in many families. We already told you that you have to live and cleave and become one with your wife. But you are certainly, as the word of God says, to honor your parents, to take care of the needs of your parents. You are certainly to do this. But then once you are married, that means you are ready to begin a family. You are ready to begin a responsibility. You are ready to start a new life, establish an earthly kingdom for the glory of God, for the three purposes we have mentioned, for development, fulfillment, enrichment. You are saying yes to all this. Or why should you want to get married? You don't want to get married and live under another person's leadership or headship of a home. But you want to take up leadership in a home. You want to be the head of the home. You want to have your own kingdom with your prime minister and your subjects. So the problem comes because of the interference of the third party. And so we would really encourage you, husbands and wives, let the decision be just between you and your husband and your children. Make a decision between the whole family so that everyone is happy with the decision. And of course, as we said, certainly go in and ask for a second opinion. So remember, leaving and cleaving does not mean that you have to forget and dishonor your parents and your siblings, but rather it talks about honoring your parents, honoring your brothers and sisters. It talks about long life on earth when you honor your parents. It talks about what happens when you don't honor your parents. So we want to encourage you today that leaving and cleaving does not mean that you have to leave your responsibility. You have to continue honoring whoever you need to honor. Now, we have heard much about why communication is vital. Of course, we are not going to just tell you why it is vital. We are also going to give you a few suggestions. As I told you that this series of teachings are going to be very practical teachings. We know that you are aware of the fact that a husband has to love his wife and the wife has to submit. And I'm sure all of you who are watching this program, you are aware of that. But we want to go on more practical things, something that then you can use in your marital relationship. When conflicts occur, how do you resolve them? And you are made aware that conflicts are healthy, so don't become upset or don't become disturbed when you are having conflicts very often. It means you are having a healthy relationship. But remember, you are not to leave these conflicts unresolved. You are to resolve them. Failing which, if you are not able to resolve between yourselves, seek your pastor's help. Seek a marriage counselor. We are going to give you some suggestions for effective communication. Are you ready? Now, the first thing we want you to do is you must voice out your unhappiness. Don't keep them into your heart. I believe men has this habit, husbands have this habit of keeping every unhappiness, dissatisfaction in their hearts. They are not very open enough to share their unhappiness with their wives. Probably they feel that the women are more sensitive. So if I were to share this, it will not like it. I remember the many times my husband has shared his unhappiness with me. Well, I'm not going to tell you I was an angel and I was very happy about it and rejoicing. I was certainly very furious. I was angry that he could bring out certain things. But as I was seeking the Lord in prayer, I praised the Lord that my husband brought out his unhappiness, because I knew if he is unhappy, then I know that the blessings will not rest on my family. And I am very eager to receive these blessings that God has promised to me through Abraham. So I want that Abrahamic blessings in my family. So if it means I should take away my anger, I should do so. So I remember in the earlier stages I was not happy when my husband shared certain things with him. Neither was my husband happy when I shared my unhappiness with him. But then as we continued to meditate upon the word of God, we knew that it is healthy to do so. Secondly, we would like you to have a daily discussion over issues. Please do not postpone. I remember that at times when I had something to discuss or my husband had something to discuss, he had the habit of waking me up at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning and telling me that I have to discuss this issue with you. And I too had the same thing. Sometimes I just can't keep it within myself. The minute he comes home, I need to discuss that issue. But every time he tells me gently, let me settle down, let me have my meal, and then we will talk about it. And I believe these daily issues must be discussed daily. It has to be a daily discussion. Issues are not to be postponed because they are unhealthy. Which means if you are postponing issues, which it means that you are actually giving way to unresolved conflicts, because you will not be able to remember what happened 2 days ago, what happened 3 days ago. But these kind of things have got a miraculous way of just surfacing after 7 to 8 years of marriage. Then you realize that you have not settled these issues. So remember, have a daily discussion of your issues. Do not be selfish. Another suggestion. Accept ideas, weigh them, and see what good it does, not for you, beloved, but for the whole family. Right? Sometimes we are so much sure and certain that our suggestion is the best for the family that we refuse to listen to the suggestion that our spouse has, or even to the suggestion that children may have. We are so much engrossed in our suggestion, seeing that it has worked with another family and insisting that it has to be my way. So it will be always good not to be selfish when suggestions are given. See which is the best for your family, which is favorable for the whole family, so that the whole family gets blessed. And during discussion, another point I would like to share with you. During discussion, do not compare your spouse with others. Do not compare your spouse with others. That is something no wife or husband would like. They do not like to be compared. They would like to be appreciated. We are all human beings. All of us like to be appreciated. Even though we are not adorable or lovable, but still we want to be appreciated. We become joyful when we are appreciated. So remember, beloved, do not compare your husband or your wife with another husband or wife, because you do not know what is exactly happening in that family's life. So do not compare, but just appreciate what the Lord has given you. The other suggestion that we can tell you for effective communication is, make sure your spouse is the first one to know of anything that is happening in your life. Probably husbands, you are planning to buy a car. Make sure your spouse, your wife and your children are the first one to know. Don't let your spouse know through her mother-in-law or her father-in-law. Then there's going to be tremendous strife and tension in that home, because every spouse would like to be the first to know. If you're planning to buy a home, make sure it is your wife and your children who will be the first to know. They deserve to know. They have the right to know, because they are with you building an earthly family upon earth. And wives, if you make a certain decision, probably you want to attend your sister's wedding or your brother's wedding, which is very far away from the town that you live. Before you tell your parents that you will be coming for the wedding, make sure it will be your husband who knows about it first. Make sure you get the blessings of your husband. If you could work in this way, whereby you husband and wife, you are accountable to each other for every decisions, every plans that you are making, then you find that this level of communication will certainly decrease conflicts in your relationship. Have the habit of constant appreciation of your spouse. As much as possible, even if you find that your wife is not so beautiful compared to your sister-in-law, compared to your sister, but make it a point to appreciate your wife. Women love appreciation. Women love to be told that they are beautiful. Men also want to be appreciated, especially when your husband gets dressed in the morning to go to work. Tell him, you look good in this attire. Tell him that. It will not cost you much to tell him that. And learn to appreciate each other, so that your children, who are the little spies that I mentioned earlier, they too will know what appreciation is all about. And they too will start appreciating one another. And when they get married, these ancestral blessings flow into their marital lives. They will start appreciating their spouses, and their children, seeing this level of appreciation, will also do the same. Now, I am talking about ancestral blessings here. Your appreciation that I talked about just now should not only be verbal, but also should be external, right? Get some things for your spouses that will please them. If you were to go into a complex or into a bookshop, don't always go with the idea of just getting something for yourself. But if you do come across something that you feel will make your husband or your wife happy, get it if you are able to afford to purchase that thing. So little gifts like this would be very good, which will really make your communication level splendid. Just verbal appreciation will not be sufficient. Getting a dress for your wife, or probably sending her flowers from the office on her birthday, that would be great, because flowers are always sent before the marriage takes place. But once the marriage just takes place, I do not know, flowers don't seem to be growing around in the country. All the flowers begin stopping. So this should be going on. It's not only the time when you are courting, you buy flowers for your girlfriend or your boyfriend, but after marriage too, you should be doing the same thing, remembering all these important days. Remembering important dates are also important, all right? Don't go to office without wishing your wife happy birthday. Don't make it a point where your wife tells you that it's her birthday today. that is around 6 o'clock in the evening. So it's very important. I do see a tendency, whereas my husband happened to forget dates of birthdays of the children, of me, and of the anniversary. So what I do is that I help him by writing it out into his diary. You are to be a compliment to your husband, not stand there for an accusation, waiting for him not to say happy birthday, darling. You're waiting for it, and the minute he doesn't say, that's it. When he comes home, then you will see a lot of tension in the home just because your husband did not wish you happy birthday. And do you know, these are some of the reasons that leads to also separation and discouragement in a family. All right? Date your wife. You have been dating your girlfriends. Once you get married, are there any rules or regulations that mention that you should not date your wife? Right? Date your wife. Take your wife out for a cup of coffee. Make it a point once a week that you take your wife out. We had this practice in our marriage. After 3-4 years after our marriage, we realized that communication, when we came to realize that communication is vital, we realized that sitting on at a table outside the environment of the home was a very healthy and conducive environment for both of us. So when we sit there, we used to talk a lot, we used to share a lot of things. So date your wife. So we have made it like every Thursday a pastor dates me, which means the children are not invited. And the children are taken out with the family on another day. So you may be thinking, boy, this means that I have to spend a lot of money. We are not telling you to take your spouse to a 5-star hotel. You can just go to a small stall and just order simple food. But that is communication, you're able to sit there, husband and wife. Now what I notice is that after 2 to 3 years of marriage, once the children come, I notice that the husbands rarely date their wives. All right? Dating is a vocabulary that is no more used in your families. So if you are not dating your wives, make sure that you secure a day of the 7 days in a week whereby your husband dates you. And husband, make yourself available on that day where you tell your children that today is the day each day of the week, I am dating your mummy and you are not invited. Only mummy and daddy goes for this date. So remember, dating is very effective for effective communication. You talk more, especially when you're living in an extended family environment. Dating is all the more important for you, where you can take your wife out once a week and you'll be able to talk a lot of things which has happened for the past 6 days we are not able to discuss on a daily basis. Take interest in your spouse. That's another point. Take interest. If your wife wears a new attire, make sure that you know it's a new attire. There have been many times that my husband has told, what a beautiful attire you are wearing, after he has seen it 8 times, 9 times. So make sure that each time your spouse wears a new attire, you appreciate your husband, you appreciate your wife. Right? Continue appreciating. Take interest in your spouse's happenings. Probably she's in the choir in the church. Take interest in that choir. What songs are they singing? How is it coming along? Make sure that you take interest in your spouse's interest too. Turn your house into a home. Organize activities for your family. Don't always be busy entertaining others, but also have entertainment programs in your home. See, what happens is we collect a number of friends as we go along in the years, and we tend to always give more attention to friends. We call them home for dinners. We have a lot of programs with our friends, with our church members, but we rarely have programs for our family. So when you have regular programs for your family, you find that communication becomes very effective. You're able to share a lot of things. Nothing is missed out. You are not missing out on anything that is happening in your children's lives, in your spouse's life. So when you talk about communication, it's not only between a husband and wife only, but it is between every member of that earthly kingdom. All right, every member. When we say take interest, it's not only in the lives of your spouses, but also take interest in the lives of your children too. The other tip that we can give is that any contribution, I repeat, any contribution that does not bring any good to your family, I would suggest that you remain quiet about it. I have told a few of my counselors, when they feel so tempted to say out something, and at the same time they are aware that if they were to say it out, it will cause tension and strife in the family. What I've suggested that they do is that they will try to stick their tongues to the roofs of their mouths. Now, why don't you do that? Why don't you try to stick your tongue to the roofs of your mouth? Are you able to speak now? You are not. So when you face yourself in situations when you feel so much you want to tell your spouse about a certain matter, but you are also aware that this certain matter is not going to bring about positive results. It's going only to bring about tension. Do what I have suggested that you do, so that you can just forget about that matter because it is not healthy. Seek God in prayer. You seek God in prayer. Whoever it is who was troubled over this particular situation, ask God for strength. And always remember, in your relationship, as Pastor Vincent has mentioned, that in between our relationship, this is husband and this is wife, we always put the cross in between. Because when we started putting the cross in between our marital relationship, we realized that we are not very quick with our tongues, because we know that if ever we were to get angry and desire to use abusive words, we need to say to that cross first. And I am sure you and I would never want to say anything to the cross, because the cross represents Jesus Christ. And I would never want to say anything that would hurt my God, because I love Him. Now, if I were to say I love God whom I have not seen, how can I say I love my husband whom I'm seeing, but I'm not able to show my love, but rather I'm only accusing him and abusing him with words. So this is another secret that the Lord has taught us, how we control our tongues. Other than sticking your tongue to the roof of your mouth, this is another suggestion, another idea we can give you, husbands and wives. Now, I would like to tell you, husbands and wives who are watching this program, believe in a miracle. Believe that a miracle is taking place in your life. Don't ever give up on that miracle.